Now I want to introduce Professor Andreas Hensel, who heads up the German Federal Institute for Risk Assessment. And if I was being very mischievous, I would say Andreas was our token man on our panel.
Yeah, and now for something completely different. So, yeah, thank you, and thank you, the organizers, to invite me for this meeting. My working place is just on the other side of the world, but I took the opportunity to come here to talk about some special aspects on food and feed safety. Food and feed safety is one of a prerequisite for trading. And it's globalized already, So whenever you have a problem with food and feed, you have it worldwide. And I have to state that in Germany, we don't have fantasy. But what we do if we have an idea, we try to implement it throughout the system. And it started in the 90s when the British made my life bad forever. It was mad cow disease. Probably you can remember this, and it was, I think, a completely new age which dawns in these times, because in Europe there was a complete loss of trust in the political system. So they discussed a lot in the member states and the Commission at the Parliament level, and then they decided to come up with a new system to make risk assessment, the scientific part, independent from the risk management, which is unique for other areas. And the idea was that, because no one will trust politicians anymore, the scientists will give the reference. And the system is quite easy. You have your research, and you're determining effects on human health related to the environment. So you generate data on the scientific part. And you have an assessment, which is a scientific assessment, which gives the probability and severity on the effects on human health. And you have the managers, politicians, or maybe also some other secondary bodies of a government, who can organize everything. And Germany is, as Jörg Hacker mentioned, something like a small Europe in Europe. We are a federal state, and by our basic law, we have the responsibility for science, and also food safety is on the hand of the federal states. So there's a lot of customers, for our institution. I'm serving to more than 55 ministers, just to give them scientific advice. But it depends a little bit, because on a regular basis, we had decided, to make it more institutional. And so our institute was founded in 2002. Just to give you some characteristics, we are almost 800 people. We have a budget of 80 billion, and we have almost 3,500 risk assessments a year. And they are within regular setting law, for example, in the pesticides or biocides area or GMOs. We are doing all the nasty things, which nobody wants to discuss. And we are also responsible for the chemicals, as well as animal welfare, things like this. The parliament, the German parliament, made us independent. So we have no institutional how you say it, control from the ministry. So we are responsible for our communications by law. That's a big responsibility, and the main reason is, to give independent voice. I have heard also from Anne that she wants to have something like this, but the role of the BFR is, after now 14 years, to have a reference function. So we are a research body. So, but the idea is that our scientists, will give the best assessment when they are active scientists. So we have also a highly sophisticated system of commissions, we include all the German scientists in our opinion. So it's done in the quality management. So we have standard operation procedures for everything, even for the science. We are accredited in the laboratory way, and it's the main reason is that we advise the German government. Why is food so fundamental? You have to eat. So everybody is an expert. It's like being in school. Everybody is an expert for school systems because they were in school. And that's the same in food. You have many people talking with you when you talk about food. And the second aspect, especially in Middle Europe, consumers have become increasingly distances from the manufacturing processes. It means 98% of the Germans have no idea, how, for example, chicken wings will be prepared. And at least you have better methods of analysis. Today, on a lab level, you can find 10 to the minus 12, so 1 ppt concentration of contaminants, which is really nothing. 10 to minus 12 is, when you have $100 New Zealand dollars and you put 1 billion on one heap, is 20 centimeters is 1 billion. And this 10 to 12, is 200 kilometers. So just to see the dimension, it's really impressive what the lab and method can do. But on the other side, you have also an effect on policy making, because the politicians implement these threshold values according to the better analysis. So we are buying with our money, we are buying better situation because we are able to measure. It's a big issue, when you deal with problems in developing countries, where are the safety levels? So we were asked to talk about crises. So they are always unexpected, you don't have enough information, you lose control, panic aspects. And I just want to give you one major example for Germany. You remember the E. coli outbreak in 2011, where the sprouts were the main reason, for the death of many people, and that also hampered the trading of the European community, because some countries closed the market because it was not clear what was the source of infection. So crisis is, and that is reality, is a continuous state. So in my institution, we have every day we have a crisis in the commodities or the food. So the risk communication is one thing, which has to be done on a daily basis. For that reason, we have a department for risk communication. We do research on consumer perception as well, just to understand, why sometimes people listen to us and sometimes they ignore us. And that has to be to do, with some holistic approaches which normal people use. They have their how you call it? I will come to this later. So they will have their routines. How to react on things which they have here on the media. And the media, to be honest, is a transmission belt, between science and the normal people. So that to deal with it means that you have to divide all the crises in some different boxes. For example, natural disasters, as seen here, or refinement on the analytics, scandals, or some other various courses. So I just want to point out that it's not always a real risk what you are dealing with. In many cases, especially in food and feed safety and in the commodity area, you are dealing with perceived risks. Especially I mentioned dioxin. Dioxin in such low concentration is the ultra toxin for many people. They have no idea how toxic it is, but they think dioxin should not be inside food, and even in small concentrations. And that makes it a little bit difficult, when you say, no, it's a question of concentration. It's not just a pure substance when it's there. It's a concentration effect which you can see. So you can see that sometimes it's not the same when the public and the layman and the experts come together. And now I want to just to point out the EHEC outbreak. This is just the email for 6 weeks, which we are Germans, we have everything in a good order. And you can see here it was an outbreak starting in the north of Germany in connection with infection by enterohemorrhagic Escherichia coli. All federal states were affected, but the focus was in North Germany. And the problem from day one, started in the beginning of May, was that also some other EU member states, Switzerland, Canada, and USA were affected, especially by tourists visiting Germany. And it was not clear in the beginning what was the source. So people really had no idea what to eat. But after a few days, we found out it has something to do with salad, which is not common with this E. coli. Normally, the E. coli is related to meat products or to milk, but this has something to do with plants. And that was new. And you can see here we had almost 3,000 clinical cases and 50 fatalities. And day by day, you was under pressure because every day people were dying and nobody knows why. So you can see the problem which the mass media had. They were coming every day and asking you, do you know something? We want to eat something, you know, how can I handle it? And it was really difficult to find out, and the German authorities, together with two others, the Robert Koch Institute and the BWL, our twin office for consumer protection, we found out with the help of European agencies, you know, that it was this EHEC, and it helps us that there was a secondary outbreak in Bordeaux, and so it was easy. And then it was not easy, but a lot of hell of work, you know, to find out where the source was by tracing backward and tracing forward. The problem was that within the communication, one of the German ministers, you know, who was inside these processes in Hamburg, she said, "Oh, it was a cucumber who is the main source of the infection," and that brought the problem, you know, that you have a lot of vectors in discussion, but it was not clear in the moment which was the vector. And you can see here that was on the news, an offer with a wheel of fortune. What is the reason for the outbreak? Beer, salad, football, sex, tomatoes, German Liberal Party. And you can, that is really difficult, you know, in such a situation where you have no idea where the outbreak source comes from. But what we did is molecular epidemiology, and you can see the clusters in red, and we could identify a horticultural farm in the middle of Lower Saxonia who was a source. And then we made a tracing backwards, and with the help of the colleagues from EFSA, for example, we found out that the common source was coming from Egypt, fenugreek seed. So that takes a lot of time, 6 weeks, and during this week people really avoid to eat something, you know, especially salad. And that caused a lot of problem even on the commission level. So just to go to the principle, I think we have learned a lot about communication, but communication is an integral part, you know, in scientific advice when you are prominent in front of the consumers, because they want to trust. They want to trust you, but they want to hear what is the grade of uncertainty, for example, and they want to make it understandable for normal people. And the problem is that you have a lot of uncertainty. We all can live with uncertainty because it's an integral part of science. Normal sciences know that they know only a little bit, but they do experiments or statistics, you know, to have an approach inside their field. But science is not static, you know, but it's also a source of uncertainty. So dealing with this scientific uncertainty, I think that is something, you know, we have to keep in mind. And it's not only dealing on the side of the natural scientific criteria, it's also a question of the social cultural criteria. Because otherwise, you know, you will not understand who will be your client. And if you, as a scientist, you will say numbers, and people don't understand numbers. They have emphasis, you know, they want to understand by their heart, you know, what is my role in this? What is the threat to my family, to myself? This is the reason why all of us are playing lotto. Yeah? As a scientist, you will not play lotto at all, you know, but you do it because it could happen one time. Yeah? So we are not logic in our behavior, and even scientists are not. Yeah? So that makes it difficult. And within a crisis, you know, that you can make a lot of mistakes, you know. Politicians, you know, like to have other criteria than scientists when it comes to evaluate uncertainty. They use the term of precaution because it is the answer of politicians of the unknown to the unknown. But also the illusion of uncertainty can divide the public, and that makes people, you know, or other scientists difficult in their communication because there's a loss in trust in the system. But nonetheless, I think, and that would be my last point, dealing with uncertainty is an intrinsic feature of our scientific progresses. And as you can see in the moment in the negotiation between US and the European community on the trading conditions, there are some scientific opinions, you know, we cannot replace political decisions, like the GMOs, the chlorine chicken, the turbo hormones in meat. You know, it's very clear that there's not a threat to the consumer, you know, but you have the feeling it could be. So this perceived risk became true. And to be honest, sometimes they are more important than the real risks. crisis should not be underestimated in risk perception, speed before thoroughness, never overreact or suppress. This is what we have learned, and you need a coherent communication between all people involved. You have to identify the cause, but please let your actions go before your words. You have to collaborate even with the local authorities. I think this is very important because this is where the people live, and this is my message and take-home message. The next crisis will come, definitely. So thank you very much.